Code to Enhance Learning, a non-profit based out of Ahmedabad with a vision that children code to express and solve problems. He has done mechanical engineering from Maharaja Siaji Rao University of Baroda, Vadodara. After engineering, he worked for 2 years with Tata Technologies Limited in Pune, simulating robot and humans for efficient functioning and automotive plants. He took a leap of faith to explore leadership and education by joining Teach for India Fellowship in Ahmedabad and taught third and fourth graders for 2 years in low income school. He taught coding to his students to build 21st century skills by connecting it with various subjects. In April 2017, he published a book called Code to Enhance Learning, a pocket friendly resource to help teachers and beginners to start learning to code. Purpose is a strong driving element for him and strongly embraces empathy, integrity, and grit. In his free time, Irfan enjoys riding bike or going for long walks. So Irfan ji, again thank you so much for coming to our podcast. Welcome. Of course, मैंने जो introduction दिया था आपका, उसके अलावा if you could introduce yourself and address the audience in your own words, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Saman, thank you very much, for this opportunity, and I'm really happy. This is my first podcast, I would say. So I'm also very much excited about, sharing a little bit about my journey and how, coding is related to it, and what do I do right now with coding and, working with kids. So currently, I'm based out of Ahmedabad. As you said, I did engineering. Currently, I'm founder of Code to Enhance Learning. It's a non-profit in Ahmedabad. We work with kids from grade 4 up till grade 9 with an idea that we use coding as a tool to build systemic thinking skills like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. Uh, so that's what we do, and we have reached out to 2,500 children up till now. Just a little bit more insight. I am an introvert, and as you also said, that purpose drives me a lot. So I think the combination of both the things, allows me to leverage these two traits a lot in the teaching field right now. Uh, and it gives me opportunities, to connect with people like you and share more about the work I do. So yeah, that's it. That's what I do. However, if I have to talk about my journey up till now, where I am currently, so it revolves, or it starts, or it's between two questions, I would say. So one of the first question, from where it starts is, what do I want to be in this world? So when you are young, this is one of the questions that has been asked to you again and again. It's a never ending question, I would say. The other question, where I am right now, which after working with Tata or Teach for India, teaching kids, uh, the second question right now is that what can I do in this world? So I think between these two questions, right now my whole journey lies. uh, and we would have our schools would change every year. We would be shifting to different places, and though it's been said that change is a constant, so people would say wow, you got to go to different schools and meet different friends. But I think beyond that, uh, you would realize that it builds in so much insecurity, and there is lack of confidence when you are not provided with such kind of support. So during such time, at a young age, education was one of the things that I heavily relied on, which I thought would help me to grow out the situation which in which I was born. However, when you start doing really well, so in a middle class family, people start expecting from you a lot, from childhood, and they start asking you question like, what do you want to be in this world? And as a child, you answer as you keep on seeing like so many people around you, so many things on television, you keep on like your fantasies keep on changing. Someday after watching a maybe a movie like Border, you would say that I want to become an army man. After some time you read something about Bill Gates and you suddenly wants to be a businessman. uh, I can even recollect that, like, when I was, I think in grade 3 or grade 2, I said I want to be a playboy because a playboy gets to play so many games. So that's how, like, things are when you are, like, when you are, like, child, and you want to, like, be so many things. However, it's very easy to say that you want to be something, but it's very hard to do those things because it requires so many skills. It requires you to be, like, emotionally balanced. It requires you to be confident. And I think these are the skills, like, which are not mostly focused on right now when you talk about school or, like, at a younger age. uh, so I think with all this, like, happening in my life, I did finally decided that I want to be an engineer. And I got a job, thankfully, at Tata's. It's, like, one of the reputed companies, and I was doing really well. One of the reason being that I was able to learn the skills very fast. However, like, after 1 year or so, I realized that something is, like, missing. I was not able to find out the purpose, like, in the work which I was doing. So basically, in my introduction, you had already said that I used to work with robots. I used to work on simulation of robots for the automotive plants, like, which are not located in India as well. They are located somewhere, like, which I even didn't know. So I think that was, like, something which I was doing. So there was no purpose, and the sense of, like, the confidence, the lack of confidence. I would say, like, that kept on. It never, like, reduced, but I would not say that it started increasing, but it stayed as it is. And uh, I would also, like, in such a moment, you would see that you are either worried or insecure about future, or you are blaming your past, that why, like, you have born into such a place, or, like, why did you do these things, like, which is affecting you up till now. So I think that was the mental state, like, after 1.5 years of, like, working with Tata. And there was one thing which I was doing at that time was that I was volunteering a lot. I was volunteering with Akanksha, which is, like, one of the NGO, like, which works in Pune and Mumbai. And I used to work with kids, teaching them or supporting the teachers over there. Teaching is was something, like, when I was doing, I would not think about my past or my future, and it would be a time when I'm, like, completely in my present. So that was a very meditative state, like, for me. So that's when I realized that, like, teaching is something, like, which I want to do. And I took a leap of faith and got into Teach for India fellowship. Taught 32 grade 3 and grade 4 kids for 2 years in a low income school. And I cherish all the memories, like, which I had, like, for these 2 years. uh, when I went into the first day of the classroom, what I was able to see that kids still find it, like, they are grade 3 kids, but they would find it very hard to process the information, like, which is given to them. Uh, and you would also see that, like, there is ASA data which says that, like, 45% of the kids are still in Gujarat not able to, like, read the sentences in Gujarati as well. So you would realize that the condition, like, I'm not talking about the content knowledge. I'm talking about the basic skills of, like, critical thinking, or maybe, like, creating something, or imagining something. So those are basic, like, fundamental skills, like, which kids didn't have. And there was no plan for, like, in the whole curriculum, that how, when these kids are going to grow up, they are going to, like, get an opportunity to build on this skill. So that's how I started, like, teaching coding to kids, because I realized that coding is, like, it pushes your critical thinking, and it gives you an opportunity to create games and application, and which builds on confidence a lot. So from then, I then started this organization called Code to Enhance Learning, where the idea is as you start coding, you will start enhancing yourself, you will start learning more things. And yeah, right now, like, we are working, like, with 200 and, like, 500 kids, with 500 being in Ahmedabad, and then, like, in other cities as well. So I think from this whole journey, what I have realized is, when the question becomes, like, that what do you want to be? So be sounds to me a bit of an ego, that this is, like, I'm going to be, and it actually started, like, limiting me. However, like, when the question, like, becomes that what I want to do, which is what I realized, that I love working with people, to help them, like, gain the skills so that they are able to do better. So it comes from a place to serve people, and I think that creates, like, more opportunities for you, like, to yeah, to, like, move ahead and be, like, emotionally stable as well. So I think that's how, like, I would say my journey lies, like, from the question that what I want to be to, like, what I want to do in this world.
Right, and usually from picking up from your last point was usually you are so focused on, again, as you said, what you want to be, the end product, you forget the process of getting there.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk more about that. So guys, आज का जो topic है, that is of course based on Irfan's, I guess, expertise, which is why coding is an important 21st century skill for every student, not just engineering, not just CS, every student. So firstly, Irfan, मैं आपको एक क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहूंगा, वेरी बेसिक. आई एम फ्रॉम एन आर्ट्स बैकग्राउंड. कोडिंग किया था 10th क्लास के कंप्यूटर क्लास में. टू डू दैट बैकग्राउंड यू वांट ग्रीन एंड देन राइट योर नेम एंड देन यू गेट फुल मार्क्स. दैट इज माय कोडिंग बैकग्राउंड. बट फर्स्टली, everybody knows coding. आप कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर बिल्ड करते हो, you need some information to make it run. Basic, I guess that's how I understand as a lay person, as a dum big dumb. But lekin, how does coding actually help for every student? As you said, every student, how does coding actually help, and why does it matter? And with that context, I guess we can kick off today's conversation.
So I think it's a very, like, good question to start our discussion with, that why coding is, like, needed for all children. So I think if you will see, like, that how we have grown in this, like, 20th century, like, from the 19th century. So now it's more about that. It's not just about that I need to bring, like, food on my plate when I start working, but it's more about that how can I do best with the time, like, which is available to me. Earlier, I would say, like, when I see my parents, or, like, my grandfather, so the idea was more about, like, bringing food on the plate, and that was the basic necessity. But now, like, as millennials are, like, coming up, the idea has become that what I can do best, like, with my time. So when the word best comes in, automatically best means you have to pick something, like, from a array of options, like, which has been given to you. You are able to do that when you are able to think critically, or when you are able to create something. So that brings out best, like, in people, and which is, like, generally for everyone, I would say, when you want to do, like, something which is best. So now there has been, like, a research being done, and from that, like, people have identified that in 21st century, like, that we need there are four important skills, like, which are needed. So one is critical thinking, then creativity, communication, and collaboration. So people say these are the four C's which are needed now beyond the three R's. So three R's earlier used to be reading, writing, and the arithmetic. So now we have, like, four more things which is being added, if we want to, like, do well in this 21st century, like, in the world where we live in. So what I feel is that, like, when this four C's are being, like, added, uh, how should I, like, phrase it? I think I can give you, like, one example for it. So imagine a teacher, like, who is been like 30 years ago, the basic task of the teacher would be to go and transmit the knowledge. So in the process of that, he or she would learn the content, go into the classroom and try to emit the content to the children, and then there would be tests and reports would be done. So that was some of the skills needed 30 years ago. But now when we talk about teachers, we talk about how the pedagogy is not transmissive, but it becomes transformational. So in that, we need to talk about what's the best curriculum which is there. So in creating that best curriculum, you also need to come up, you have to critically think that these are n number of ways in which I can teach. You have to create some exceptional activities for the children, and during that process you can't do things alone. You need to collaborate with your staff and keep on there is a lot of communication skills which are needed. Now when you want to achieve all the skills, I feel that coding gives you a very, it's a very basic package, which when you start coding, the process becomes such that automatically all these core skills gets ticked in the whole process. For example, coding is just giving instructions to computer. So where if you want to give an instruction to a human, then suppose if you want to make a tea, then you can say ek chai ka patila lo, then put some sugar, or maybe boil some water, add sugar and tea, and add milk into it. But for computer it doesn't work in this way. So at that time again you have to think critically that how much water you are supposed to put in, how much sugar or how much tea you are supposed to put in. So this process of coding automatically builds in critical thinking and creativity into it. So that's why I would say that how coding is been taught in a classroom, it's more towards making programmers. But then we have to shift our lenses in a way that it becomes a tool like a pencil or a color paper or a book, which helps you to create maybe games or animations or certain applications which solves your problem. So that's why I would say that it's not a we should teach coding not because we want to create programmers or coders, but it's a tool for building in the 21st century skills, the 4 C's. So, and I think every kid deserves that. So I think that's why it becomes a greater tool for every kid to learn. The other thing, it's already been researched that kids like to work on gadgets a lot. So to entice them, it becomes very easy in the learning process. So I think this is another I would say byproduct, or is an another USP, which allows which builds in the engagement in the kids, and it really helps kids in the learning process. Though it could be done with art, it could be done with this 4 C's could be built in n number of ways. But this could be one of the tool as well to work on the 21st century skills. I hope I answered your question.
That absolutely. And one thing that even I was taught in my college, in practice of being in attempts to becoming a teacher, was you don't try to teach the topic. No, you don't try to teach the topic. You try to teach the essence or the moral of the topic, and the method that you use depends on how the kids wants to learn, or depends on how the kid can learn.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically it. You're trying to teach all these skills, and coding is just one method in a plethora of methods. And also, the byproduct is you're using gadgets every day. There you go. I have a laptop, a mobile, a microphone, a web camera, everything. Just n number of products right in front of me. But it would be just a bit better from my side, sort of selfish, to understand what exactly happens behind the lens itself. So, with that, of course, Aditya, who is an engineer, and so I'll hand it over to him. Aditya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Saman, for that amazing introduction. However, Saman said I'm an engineer. Guys, I want to tell you I'm an IT engineer who's not very good at IT. So please forgive me for my lack of knowledge about coding, even though I should have it. But yeah, I think I have some basic knowledge, and as Irfan said, I very well relate to the fact that coding teaches you a lot of skills which are of use in daily life also. So skills like critical thinking, skills like problem solving, communication, because it's like giving instructions to a computer, as Irfan said. So Irfan, the next question automatically would be, if any school administrator or any teacher is watching this, or even if any student is watching this, so how can they collaborate to help a student learn coding at a young age? And how do they do it? Like, do they start teaching Python or something like a JavaScript right away? Or do they do it like you, where you're teaching MIT Scratch to them? So what's the logic behind, teaching coding to children?
Yeah. So I think the first thing, like, which if you are working with a child, you need to understand, like, that what's the purpose right now. That why, like, some activity or, like, certain tool has to be, like, introduced to kids. So as I said, with CEL, our idea is that how we could use coding to build 21st century skills so that kids are able to express and, like, solve problems. So for us, then now after, like, you have defined the purpose, that, like, what's the objective. Maybe the objective could also be that if there is a kid, like, who is right now in 8th grade and 9th grade, and it's very well, like, acquainted with gadgets, and the passion lies in, like, exploring more, and maybe like, exploring computer science further. So at that time, the purpose, like, becomes different. So I think the first step to start, like, for the school or a parent or for the student themselves, that what's the purpose, like, why you want to learn this. After that has been, like, addressed, the second thing is, then you have to start understanding, like, that what are the different technologies, like, which are available to, like, get yourself started with. For us, it's more about that we want to inspire kids, like, first to do it. So we start with Scratch, which is a very block based, like, programming language, where you can, like, snip the blocks together. So in blocks, you have different instructions are there, which computer is able to understand. For example, if you want to make a character move on the screen, there would be a move block. So for kids, like, it becomes very easy how the environment is designed. Like, it's very user friendly, it's very colorful. So it automatically encourages kids, like, to create something. So with that, there are other platforms also available, like, which is, like, as you said, Python. Then you have, like, JavaScript, which is more of a syntax based. So the environment would look like, very dull. And I would say, if you want to start learning it, I would never recommend, like, someone to go through JavaScript or Python, because that doesn't allow you to understand the purpose, like, why you are doing it. So the second step is, like, identifying the technology, like, which you want to learn. I think these three are, like, amazing programming environments, like, which people could start with, which is, like, Scratch, JavaScript, and Python. We at CEL use Scratch, and then we move on to JavaScript. And then we are figuring out how to, like, design curriculum on machine learning and artificial intelligence as well. So I think this is, like, the journey, like, which we are thinking on. The step three also, you have to figure it out, that, like, uh, is the technology, like, feasible right now or not. So for example, initially when I started exploring coding, I used to use code.org. Like, it's a very wonderful organization which is doing a good work in US. But all the content, like, which is available, you can only access them, like, through your internet connection. So initially I had to, like, raise funds for the kids, like, in the low income school, to get the internet connection and, like, do the learning in the class. And our funds, like, used to get exhausted, like, very quickly. So instead of that, Scratch, which is something you can download it in your computer, and it doesn't require internet, like, to learn and, like, grow more. So you also have to understand, like, is the technology feasible for you right now or not. So this would be, like, the third criteria of, like, how you start, or, like, which would be a step to start teaching, or, like, bringing coding into classroom. Then the next step, I would say, is more about how your curriculum is being structured. So as Saman said in the beginning, right now, that for me coding was more about just you color something, just you type something, do the hello world thing, and that's done. This is not going to inspire people. When you want to inspire people, you are going to give them certain problem which is contextual to them. So for us, one of the lessons we have for grade 4 kids is about, there are pre-K kids who are struggling to understand, or maybe the rhymes which they have, and we are going to make an application for them so that they can learn rhymes in a better way. Now this, if most of the kids have their siblings, those who are in pre-K, if they are in school, they get to see pre-K kids. So this becomes a very contextual problem. They also have seen it as they were growing in their journey. So I think designing a curriculum which is not just which is not very factual, theoretical, but then you have to think about that how problem solving and creativity comes in. There are two more steps. I would go quickly. So another is about support. So how you are building in support which is peer to peer and from teacher to the student. So which is one to many and many to many, which not only drains the teacher, but it allows kids to collaborate, work together, and figure their problems out. And the last, which is very important, I think it doesn't matter which subject you are teaching, or either you are teaching art, you are teaching math, science. There should be an opportunity for kids to showcase their, which inspired or motivated to do more once they have showcased their project or their work to a group of audience. And we call people from community as well, we call parents, we call teachers as well, and in front of them. So I think these are certain criteria which the school or the teacher or the kids have to figure it out if they want to have a good experience getting introduced to coding, or excelling at it.
Great.
It's a
So,
very
guys,
exhaustive list.
no, it's a good one. I think guys in the audience should definitely note down from when Irfan started speaking about this and when he ended, so that they can repeat this bite again and again and figure out how they can also start teaching coding in their schools, or who are students, they can figure out how to start learning coding. And because if you're watching this on Facebook, I'm pretty sure you have at least a mobile phone with an internet connection, so you can learn the basics of it. Now, Irfan, you talked about how engaging it should be, and I do remember I started learning coding from C. Probably I did not find it interesting. That was one of the very small reasons. I cannot blame Balaguru Swami sir, who had written that book. It was an amazing book, guys. Probably my inability to learn. But then I think if I ever start learning coding again, probably I would also start from something like a JavaScript or a Scratch. And then you talked about the feasibility, like whether the students have the required device and the infrastructure or not to learn it. And now we have someone in the audience who's a very special person. So we have Swapnil Tiwari sir, the madman, my favorite social worker, and he says interesting topic. He follows it up with a question, which is a great question to follow up in this topic also. He asks, can you suggest ways on how coding and related can give impetus to rural employment? And this also kind of covers feasibility.
Sorry, I missed your question. Can you come again? I'm so sorry, I missed it.
No, no issues, no issues. So he asks, can you suggest ways on how coding and related things can give impetus to rural employment?
Yeah. So I think with CL, firstly the our idea was never to think about it from the perspective of jobs, or uh, it becomes a pathway for kids to get to get skilled in terms of professional training, and get into jobs. For us, the main idea was that there are kids from age 10 to 15, which is the age where kids start critiquing a lot. If you would have seen, that's the time when they start arguing, they start questioning. So the thinking and systemic thinking is growing a lot. and there are no mechanisms right now or the opportunities in the school which starts building it, or there are opportunities for kids to learn, especially in the marginalized sector. So for us, coding or using the digital devices to create something became an opportunity, with the help of which we can start working on the skills. uh, with that being said, I can take a stab, though it's not one of my areas of expertise. I think now what is happening is that because of internet, you are you are accessible to any part of the globe. You can talk mostly in the IT companies or in the technology companies, they have started working from home. So I think for the kids, those who are from the rural sector, there is tons of knowledge which is available on the internet. There's so much of content which is available, and if someone has the passion to learn things, they would be able to learn out this technologies maybe within a 6 months or an year of time. And if you talk about jobs also, though there are so many computer science students or IT students, those who are coming out, but if you would have seen, there is a survey which says that only 5% or less than 5% of the kids they are able to write basics of code, which is one of the important criteria to land up in the job. And the kids, those who are coming out of engineering, they are not able to do it. So then the rural kids also have that kind of market, if they are good enough to explore this, they can land up into jobs. So I think there is a good opportunity for people from the rural sector as well, because there is no need for you to come into a tier 1 city and get that kind of knowledge. You can sit at home. There are so many platforms which helps you to learn more. There are people, those who keep on guiding you. Earlier it was very hard because you had to figure it out through books, but with the online platforms right now, it becomes easy for you to learn and apply to the jobs as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for someone who has a passion towards thinking and creating something and sitting in front of the computer for a longer period of time. I hope I answered his question. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope Swapnil sir, your question was answered. And if it was not, please post a follow-up question. We'll be more than happy to answer it. So
Sure.
also, Irfan, I could see two aspects to it. So one is obviously the skills that you learn from coding, which accompany you throughout life, even if you don't pursue coding in the future. So let's say you learned coding as a kid with CEL or any other organization, or even self-learning you did, and after that you went on to do something else. But those critical thinking skills, those problem-solving skills, accompanied you, which made you a great professional. And I think in the upcoming machine age, these are very important skills, and that's why we are discussing coding as a 21st century skill. And secondly, obviously, some students can also get very motivated by learning MIT Scratch, and who knows, later on they go on to learn JavaScript or Python or even Java or a C++ with you, let's say. So these are two possibilities I could see. And Pushkar has a follow-up question, even though it might be a repetition of something that you said earlier, but for the audience which has just joined now, I would like to repeat it. So he asks, "Hi Irfan, could you share what languages have you introduced to kids for coding and their age groups?" So I've already commented Pushkar the link to MIT Scratch, which Irfan uses to start off coding with, because as he says, and I totally agree with that, that it is a very lively programming language. You can quickly see the feedback of what you're doing, and it's very much in front of you. So you know what you are writing or what you're entering as a block, how is that translating into the output, which probably you might not know in C or a C++ because it's very syntax based. So it's like very good for the fundamental understanding. So what age groups do you teach, Irfan, if you could repeat that for the audience?
Yeah. So we work with kids from age 10 to 15. So they are usually in grade 4 up till grade 9. So how the structure of the curriculum looks like is, so we start from grade 4, 5 and 6, we use Scratch. And there is a research been done by Harvard. So they have broken down, or they have created a framework which allows to build computational thinking in kids. So we use that framework for whole of our curriculum. And first we start with scratch, like for this beginning 3 years, where we start teaching them, like in the initial grades, we teach them basics of, like how do you move the characters, and how do you, like create a rhyme player, or how do you create a very small story. So with that, we try to, like teach kids what is event, how do you sequence something, or what are loops. Loops basically means, like the things, like which keeps repeating again and again. So as, like kids progress, then we start teaching them functions as well. So the idea is that how we can use scratch, and, like we start building all this computational concepts. Along with that, we teach them perseverance, collaboration, then there is experimenting, then there is debugging. So these are all the things, like which are being structured, like in the first 3 years, and the technology is used scratch. After kids are done with this 3 years, with the seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, we start using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, where the idea is more towards that now we have learned block-based programming. We are, like very much ready to learn more about what the actual world of programming looks like. So we start using a syntax-based, like this high end programming languages, and we, like have the curriculum, like from grade 7, 8, and 9. So we use, like that technology, yeah, in those grades. So this is how basically the program is being structured. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Irfan. And I think that answers a few more audience questions which were there. So, Anita ji, your question of how does Irfan teach coding to students, I hope you got a bit of insight into that. And obviously, if you have a follow-up question, please put it up in the comment section. We'll again pester Irfan to answer it. But
Uh, I
Irfan,
can
also,
comment something. Yeah, I can comment something on that. Also, we
sure.
have a, like YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube. So I think we have tried to, like share away the knowledge, like which we have. So there are fantastic, like videos which will help you to learn about that, how the whole class is to be structured. So I think I would really recommend, like people could just type in code to enhance learning on YouTube, and they would be able to see our channel, and that would give you more insight into how the lesson, like should be structured. Yeah. So I thought, like it would be nice to add this up.
Sure. Immediately after I ask the next question, guys, I'll comment the channel link in the comment section so you can visit the channel, have a look at the videos, and use the knowledge available to teach coding to kids. Because I think, as a representative of Pro Bono, which provides career guidance, not just to tell students about the career options available or to tell them how to make the right career choice or to help them plan their career. That's where the thing starts. After that, our job is also to expose them to mentors who can really tell them what exists in that career, to help them with their life decisions ahead, to guide them, to hold them accountable to themselves, and also to expose them to all the required skills for them to fulfill their career plan, because that's the most important. Just making a career choice is great, but achieving the goals that they have set for themselves is even better, and that is what we strive for. And that is why this session is being organized, so that together we and Irfan can help you understand how we can build these skills. So I think, definitely do have a look at the channel. It's a great 21st century skill coding. And my last question to you, Irfan, would be, before we transfer to Mr. Sen, and I would need a brief answer to this, is when and I'm sure you have experienced this, you have been a TFI fellow, there would have been students who don't have a laptop or a computing device at home. They might be having those smartphones at home where they can watch YouTube videos, they can download apps, but then how do we teach these students coding? So do we have, as a country or as a state or as a school, do we have enough infrastructure to get a laptop or a computer for each student? Do we do it in batches? What's your model of bringing the feasibility angle to it? कि सारे students चाहे वो किसी भी background से हो, coding becomes much more accessible than it was earlier.
So currently, how our model looks like is that we offer, like two programs. So one is a teacher coding program. So where we directly work with teachers, share our curriculum, and empower the teacher, like to go and implement the curriculum in the class. So where there are regular trainings, online and offline support. There is also a student coding program where an expert from our side would go into the school and directly implement the curriculum. Now for both these things to work out, the first step, we need to be on the same page with the school is that are they ready to have that? Do they have that kind of infrastructure? Are they going to have the maintenance for it for the whole year? And that's when we come on board in terms of uh, in terms of the intervention. Sadly, uh, currently we are not at that level of the infrastructure where all school has that kind of infrastructure where kids could sit one on one and do the program. So I think what works out well is that how you can create different batches for the kids. So in our program what we do is that we have a specific period of time where kids would come in. Either they share a computer which the max ratio goes into that there are two kids those who are sitting in one computer and then they are working uh, for the stipulated period of time. So this is what the first thing is we have make this a mandatory criteria that is the school on board with us to have the infrastructure and are they ready to do the maintenance for the whole year. uh, and besides this of creating batches, I think that coding is something which is very experiential. So you have to sit on the computer and then you start exploring things ki, oh, if I do something like this then this happens in this way. Okay, now I was start coding with just pen and paper, and at that time the idea of just because it was very stimulating in terms of thinking, so it motivated me to learn. But besides that it would have been a great influencing factor in our whole batch if we would have got an opportunity to work on the computer. So I think besides this, I can't think of like we have a pencil which is needed to write and teach writing to kids. I think computer is one of the priorities which I think the infrastructure is must in school, which is needed, and without which I don't think that coding could be taught to kids. So yeah, that's my take on it. And with CL, we are very strong that we are ready to use people if they are not on board with us on this criteria. We are able to do 100 number of things and bend our ways. But this is one of the things which is the strict criteria that we have. I don't encourage doing it on pen and paper. Yeah, that's what I meant, I would say.
So thank you so much, Irfan, for such a practical and a very honest answer. And with this, I think I've eaten into the time of Mr. Sen a lot, but I would really await his questions. So without any further ado, over to Mr. Sen.
Thank you, everyone, and namaskar. Welcome to the show, Irfan, and namaskar to all the audience members. Now, you have covered a lot of things, and while you were speaking, I was thinking of my time when I was between the ages of 10 and 15. And that was a long, 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 long time ago. Okay,
You look very young though.
Yeah, it is. It is. Even yesterday is a long time back. So now, one of the technologies that we experimented with at that point of time, 11 or 12, was how do you do, and that time we used to have something called elocution. That means we need to stand up in front of the class and speak, and talk. You have to memorize a poetry or something, and So one of the technologies that we were encouraged to experiment with is how could we do that as a radio? So we were sent to the other room, right? And we had to come up with a solution that will actually have a speaker in front of the classroom. And I'm talking about early 70s. Like, it's long. Okay. And then we used to be in the other room, speak into a makeshift microphone or whatever you want to call it. And that voice had to get transmitted to the other room. That was way back in the 70s. And we got really excited by that. So now what happens to the kids when you teach them, when you get them to coding, and if you give them a similar sort of a, similar sort of something to do, a simulation, how do they react?
So they, of course, they have a blast in the class, because it's also about how you package it to them. So for us, or for teachers or curriculum designers, the idea is more about that how these kids are going to build critical thinking and creativity. But for them, we are teaching that, oh, today we are going to solve problem, this is a problem that we have. And if you would have seen, kids are more into solving problems, they are like, I want to do it and I can do it. Just they keep on looking for those opportunities, and there would be at times when they are not able to figure it out, they need some support, and they'll get back on the track and they'll start doing it. So imagine you are giving this opportunity on a plate to them in the class. So they are very excited about it. And then there are at times when you have to bring in certain norms, that how we are going to work in this class, because the excitement sometimes goes over the discipline of the school as well. But I think they really like it, because the one reason being that they get to do something which has not been instructed to them. They have to figure out things on their own, and they get to create, they get to present it to someone. And I think one of the things which I would say, which I have seen in the kids, those who come from a low income background, elocution is something where you have to memorize things a lot, and then you have to speak it in front of the audience. What we do is we give them 3 or 4 questions, and they have to go and share in front of the audience, answering those questions. Now how they answer it is, the questions are like what you have created. So because they have gone through this whole journey of coding something and creating something, it becomes very easy for them to face the audience. So it's not like, हाँ इसके बाद ये आएगा, इसके बाद ये आएगा, दिमाग में वो नहीं होता है, but they have been into the process of it, and so that they are able to do it really well. And I think most of the kids they are able to do it. It builds in confidence in them also, and they keep on looking for, can we have more classes, can we come more. So I think this is what the environment has been. Sadly, I would just take one more minute, that sometimes parents are not able to understand in terms of the low income areas, where they think like, अरे सर तो सिर्फ गेम सिखा रहे हैं, गेम बनाना सिखा रहे हैं और गेम खिला रहे हैं. And initially I used to have so much conversation with them that it's not what it looks like. We are teaching so many things. So I think this could happen, but kids are really on board, and they get to learn and they have fun a lot. Yeah.
So Irfan, my next question is at a tangent. It's a tangent question, which is, now you already talked about that the scarcity of the equipment is a challenge, and you do need a laptop or something to get it done. Of course, it's very standard. Now, India being a country which is developing, and there are a lot of people who are in the rural areas and who do not have access to many such gadgets which will help them to learn coding. And India, we have a mindset, and as you said just now, that parents are a challenge. You're a game sikha raha hai, kyun game sikha raha hai? Padhai nahi kyun kar raha hai, Do you think that there is a case over here to do some sort of digital education for the parents? Now, because that parents group would be people like us, or people who are younger than us, much younger than us. Only some of that group, a very small, minute percentage of the Indian population, would have been exposed to the digital world. And we're talking about people who are in their 30s, 35 to 40. It's only those very privileged boys and girls, men and women, who have been actually exposed to the digital world. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to bridge what we call the digital divide. And we are hoping we are expecting, the outcome will be the digital divide will also bridge the income divide that we have today. So, what do you think is the case for actually educating the parents on the benefits of this digital revolution that you're doing? I'll call it revolution. Yeah, okay, that's a good word.
Thank you very much, for the kind words, uh, uh, I think it's a very interesting perspective, that you have brought in about the parents. So I think if you will see, if we keep, kids at the center, uh, and we see, a teacher, a school leader, or the community, parents, relatives, friends. So these are all different types of stakeholders, which puts in lot of efforts. Either it becomes conscious or unconscious, and which starts influencing, the kid. So there's a good quote, it takes a village, to educate a child. So I think, because uh, it's a very different thing, which the parents have not been through, the school leaders have not been through. So I think it's very important for them, to be part of this experience as well. And when I said, that we do a closing ceremony, or a showcase ceremony for the kids to, present their work, at that time we also create an opportunity for the parent to work with the child, and they get to code, something, and then we ask them a question, that how did you feel. So our task is, very basic, that you have to code something on scratch to share about your child. What is one thing your child really likes, or what one thing, he or she wants to do. And when they are able to do it with the help of the kid, they firstly, it's a good bonding time for them. But when they share it, so they feel really empowered, especially the marginalized, background, that we were able to sit for the first time on the computer, and, we were able to do something, though it was very, it's very small change or shift. But I think the change in the mindset, becomes a lot. So I think it's very important for the education, the community which is there right now, to bring not only parents on board, but how such experiences, could be created for people in government, for the school leaders, for, other members, those who are a very, those who are a very big stakeholder, in the life of the kid, so that we all can be on the same board. There are same language, which is coming out, and that helps, kids to go a long way. So I think it's a need of the hour, that it should be done. And there's a stat, which says that there would be 2 billion devices, no, not two, it's 20 billion devices, which are now connected with the internet, with 3 devices, being used by one person. So it is going to be, with everyone around us, the digital devices. So I think knowing it and how we could leverage it to our best. So I think it's very important, to do it.
That's a brilliant, brilliant response to that question. Thank you so much. There is one more thing, and I'll leave you after that for Samant. But my last question is, we talked about the digital divide, bridging the income divide. Next question is, India has not done very well in gender diversity. The girl child is still lagging behind in India, unfortunately. How do you think this digital revolution that you're doing is going to help the girl child to come up and close that gap? Because I believe if 50% of the population do not contribute in a gainful manner, we will never go ahead in our economic development. If we have to go ahead in economic development, we have to empower the girl child. So what do you think of that, and how many girl students you have had in the class? Because I know that it's a fact of life that the parents don't want their girl child to even study further beyond a certain time. It's a very sad thing. But what is your experience, and how would you tackle that problem?
I think you asked me, you said to me that you are going to ask like, easy question. And I think this is a tough one for me. Firstly, I don't have like, enough data to talk about like, at the national level, like, that
No,
how
no, no, no. It's not a national
now,
level. It's at
yeah,
your level.
yeah,
It's at
I
that
can talk
level
about,
because it's all
yeah,
over the place.
yeah. So I think right now, if you'll see our program, so we have around 70 or 80 percentage of the kids, those who are there with us, they are like, they are girl child. And we are very much proud about it because we work with low income schools, like, which is an all girl school. And there are so many kids, those who like, come up and they are very excited to learn and create. And I think as you said, like, very correctly, like, that if the uh, half population of whole India is not contributing to the economy, then I think it's going to take us like, some more time to be the largest, like, economy, like, in the whole world. And I think we need to get into like, one more step below it, that what's the reason, like, that why why the girl child right now, like, they are not given a chance, like, to educate themselves or maybe go out and work. And I think one of the reason which I have, like, come across uh, with the limited experience, like, which I have, is the kind of environment, like, which is going to come up, like, when you go to a workplace. So it's a very, I have heard very terrible stories out there, and that's why, like, I think with the digital education, because you can get it, like, from your home, and it's very easily accessible to you. And now there are opportunities which are coming up that you can stay at home, you can do freelancing work, and then you are able to earn as well. I think that's the piece, like, which is going to bring out change in terms of the women or the girls, where, like, parents are a bit protective about, like, they coming out and, like, joining the workforce. So I think that's the piece, like, something which is going to, like, change things right now. However, there are, like, so many things around it which needs to, like, be tackled. And I think with all people, like, coming around, we would be at a place, like, when uh, like, we would see that all, like, 50% of the girls, like, would coming in, and they are doing, like, like, amazing job right now. I have seen, like, programs coming in, like, for teaching only girls, like, in India, coding. So I think it's going to make a lot of difference right now, and I'm very much hopeful about it.
Brilliant answer. You scored 100 out of 100.
Thank you very much.
Great job. And that's, I think, the message you gave to the world through Probano's platform is, guys, yes, we do understand there are a lot of issues surrounding the working environment of women and girls, but if they can bridge the digital divide, then they actually can work from their home. And what COVID has given us the opportunity, which we should capitalize on, is working from home. And then you have something where you can actually create some magic. With that, Samant, it's all yours.
Great. This. Yeah. So sorry, I couldn't let any background noise get
No, no,
interfered.
it was my fault, guys. I should have stopped.
Yes, I blame your timing.
Okay. होता है,
So
होता
guys,
है. So sometimes you have to edge to the slip, the catch got dropped. Okay.
I just want to add, like, one piece to what I said. I think I don't want to convey something which means that girls are supposed to be at home and, like, work from home. What I meant is that the current, like, one of the problem is the mentality of the parents, because of the experiences they have. That is, like, restricting, like, girls from going out. So I think for time being, like, that could be one of the solutions, like, to it. But I think it should not be, like, I don't want to convey it in a way that that's the solution right now. That's not the solution, like, it's not a lifelong solution. But I think for time being, still like what could be done from now itself. So I think that could be a solution for it. So I just wanted to like
Irfan, don't
clarify.
worry.
Yeah,
Irfan, don't worry. This is such a complex problem.
yeah,
Every single country in the world is struggling with it.
yeah,
United States of America struggles with the same problem.
yeah.
So it's okay. It's
Sure.
not a problem. But what I'm saying is COVID has given us an opportunity which we should capitalize on. Someone, nobody in your background, go for it.
Okay. So I do want to talk about Irfan, जो आपने बोला कि you're not recommending that girls need to stay at home, but hundreds and thousands of years of such kind of culture overnight तो बदल नहीं सकता है, लेकिन we can start off with working at home, which is a middle ground, exploring the world outside through the medium of internet.
Sure. I think
आंखों से डायरेक्टली नहीं देख सकते हो, लेकिन at least you can look at a Google image, I guess. That's how I visit Paris and Iceland, where I want to go. Passport भी
Someone,
नहीं
you
है.
put the icing on the cake.
Great. I do want to take up one last very important audience question. Vinayak की तरफ से ये, I don't know if that's an audience question or direct question, but anyway, Vinayak asked, just like how typewriting was a profession and then changed to data entry on a computer and so on, similar jobs, do you think coding will be redundant skill in the future, or will it become more of a basic requirement like the ability to use calculator?
I think it's a very interesting question again. I feel that like right now at the I think 10 or 20 years down the line, I don't know like if even Bill Gates is like in a place like to comment that how like things are going to look like, because we are growing and like things are coming up at a very rapid pace. We are seeing like that artificial intelligence or like machine learning is coming up, and like they it is like developing the models on their own. So I think the better question like for us to think about would be that how like for instead of like thinking about whether coding is going to be there or not, like 10 years or 20 years down the line, how now coding is going to be one of the best tools which is going to empower them like this critical thinking or like the skills which I told just now, that how it's the best tool right now we have, and how more like it could be given to like more and more kids. So I think I am in not in a proper place like to say or comment that whether it's going to be there or not, but I think for now it's a very good tool which could be used in the classroom to build like those skills. And I think it's one of like it's, and personally what I see is that it's a very good thing, like it's very similar to how you learn a new language. I think it's one of the languages like which allows you to communicate with the computer and do your basic like things. Yesterday I just created a very small game and I felt so happy about it. So I think seeing that in perspective, I think it's going to like be there, like how writing has been. You can type on the computer, but like still writing on a notebook gives you a very different kind of feeling. So I think that's my take on coding right now. Yeah. And yeah, I think I would end with that.
That's great. I just want to add one last thing. Although usually मैं कभी interrupt करता नहीं हूँ, I let the guests have the last word and I just say, okay, done, yeah, bye, go, leave. But I do want to add a little bit, which is what you said, कि predict नहीं कर सकते. Bill Gates even, who we would say is one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time, like he couldn't predict the future of computers. He said 64-bit or 32-bit would be the maximum, would be the limit. Or I think just a few decades after we're having 128-bit, I think so. I don't know. So there is a difference. And also back in 1970s and 80s, they predicted flying cars or at least hovering cars. Or in 2020, I'm driving a 2010 10-year-old Hero Honda 125cc motorcycle. So it's not exactly where we are going. Also, we've been using horses for centuries. and then 1920 से लेके 2020 we've come so far through the discovery of quantum mechanics. So I think we can't predict where you're heading at. What we can predict, okay, for now, this works. Let's do this. Great. With that being said, first of all, thank you all the audience members for watching. Thank you for all the questions, comments, and insights. Aditya and Mr. Sen, thank you for coming, and Vinayak for running the stream. Now, Irfan, before we say goodbye, well, bye, not goodbye, any final words for the aspiring coder or any student in general?
So firstly, thank you very much, to Pro Bono and Aditya, someone, Mr. Sen, Vinayak, for creating this wonderful opportunity. I think I met Aditya. I haven't got a chance to meet Aditya, but we have stayed in touch from a long back, and I can see the journey you have covered up, and I'm very happy about it. And I want to wish you more power for this. Just connecting back, I remembered one of the quote which is related to Vinayak's question, and I would try to close this with that. So there is one great educator here in Ahmedabad, and we had a leadership forum with her. And she said that education is not about future, it's about now. So we are preparing kids for now, and when we start having that kind of vision, that whatever we are teaching kids to them right now, it starts helping them from now itself, which means they start using it from now itself. Then I think that's the true way of whatever education we are giving it to them. So I'm trying to paraphrase her. I don't remember the exact sentence that she said, but I think that has completely changed my view of how I used to view education. For me, it was something we are going to do in future, and we are preparing for it. But I think it has shifted my lens, that it's about now, that whatever I'm learning, can I use it from now itself? And that's how I think with coding also, because it gives you the skills which you can use it from now itself to create, to think, and that you can use it in n number of things which you do throughout the day. So I think happy coding to everyone. Yeah, and it was a great time you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Irfanji, can I get the name of the educator whose code this belongs to?
Kiran Sethi, so she is founder of Riverside School. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So again, before we say goodbye, I want to read out one quote came up today. Kiran Sethi ma'am ke alawa. Of course, I don't want to plagiarize her, but one quote I will read out is, खुद का एक quote है, that's what I came up with, is, we are not here to teach the topic, we attempt to teach the essence and moral lessons that entails the topic. You use different methods to deliver that essence that the child wants to and can learn in. With that being said, everyone, thank you for coming. And of course, Irfan, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast and taking time to speak with us. It was a wonderful discussion. Of course, I didn't understand coding, but I love the conversation. I could understand the generic stuff. But so guys, stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, take care, and like and follow our Facebook page and turn on post notifications to get notified when we do go live, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch our videos on entrepreneurship. And we'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 6 p.m. with another guest. Take care now. Bye-bye. See you.